All right, so I've been wanting to do things a little bit differently for quite a while now and start telling my own story and kind of get into more storytelling and not just color grading tutorials. And don't worry, there'll be a lot more of those still, but I kind of want to, after doing this for a year, I want to do more storytelling as well. So I thought I would start with my own story to practice that. And I've just decided that no matter how this goes today, I'm just going to make a video of it and post it. And before we get any further, I just want to say a huge thanks to Artlist, who's making this video possible. They're not sponsoring the video, but I'm going to talk about them a little bit later because they are helping me out to actually make this happen. So let's go outside because I've decided that I want to tell it from being outside. So let's try and do that. Let's just go. How convenient is it that I just happen to have my tripod here next to me? Okay, let's head outside. I was planning to go into this park and film, but apparently the sign is out, so I cannot do that. So I'm gonna have to find somewhere else. Also, I don't get how these vloggers just walk around with a tripod now. I chose the biggest tripod in the world, but they just walk around and do this stuff. Maybe here in the shade can actually work. All right, so I wanted to dive into my story of, well, what I'm doing and where I'm at right now, but we're starting with chapter 1, which makes sense, but there's going to be a chapter 0 at some point as well, focusing more about what happened leading up to everything. But the short story is that I decided to switch everything around during the COVID-19 pandemic and left Denmark behind, where I'm from. Not entirely, but I sold everything and I just left on a one-way ticket. So that's where we kind of begin here. I was going to go to Bali because the internet said that's the best place for digital nomads, and I actually originally had a plan to go there as my paid vacation when I had my job, but yeah, COVID happened. So my plan was set, I'd bought the ticket, I'd sold everything, I was celebrating Christmas. It's 2021, it's the end of 2021 in December, and everything is looking really good until 2 days before Christmas, 6 days before my flight. Indonesia decides to ban Denmark because we had a lot of high number of positive tested people. So already from the get-go, even though I was super motivated, kind of just, hit the first bump on the road. I knew there were going to be a lot of bumps, but I didn't really expect it to come that soon. I couldn't go to Bali as I intended. Luckily, Sri Lanka just happened to be able to give me a visa. They didn't have that many restrictions and I could go, and so I decided to, not knowing anything about Sri Lanka, I decided to go there without much of a plan. The only things that I had 3 goals, and that was that I wanted to make new friends, because that's been a challenge that I had while I was in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and in my adult life, as I was just pretty much working all the time. The second thing was that I wanted to build a sustainable business around something creative. My original thought was photography, and as you might have guessed if you followed this channel for a while, I didn't really end up there, but that's for another story, another time. And the third thing was that I wanted to kind of get new perspectives and new takes on life, because I was kind of tired of this Western way of living and everything being set in a pattern, and first you go to school and then you make a career and then you get kids and buy a house and get a car and then you just live out your life. I didn't want to do that. Okay, before we get to when I actually traveled and got to Sri Lanka, let's just switch up location, because I think that's kind of what I wanted to do today. So this was location 1. Let's move on and see what we can find. I know I'm kind of supposed to record the road, but seriously, putting the tripod down and walking up and down these streets a million times and having gigabytes of that is just, it's not sustainable. I know it's storytelling, but I'm gonna do that another day. I need to cross this big old road. I'm also just attempting to record this at the worst possible time of day. It's the middle of the day, and there's no clouds at all today, so it's a little bit overexposed. I'm sorry. Still getting used to this. This is weird. I'm literally walking with a big tripod and trying to talk to the camera at the same time. Okay, there should be a park somewhere close. I'm gonna attempt to find that, and then we can talk about what happened then when we get there. I finally found a park over there. Ooh, this is a workout. This is not at all what I intended for this video. All right, I find a new spot. I got this little tree stump that I can sit on, and I think the exposure is okay for now. So I left Denmark, I flew to Sri Lanka. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anyone there. I got a few tips for some friends on Instagram, but that's kind of what I knew and what I had. I knew a place that I could go, but I couldn't find somewhere to stay there for the first night. So I went to another place. Right now I don't recall the name. And this was right before New Year's. So I arrived and I got a taxi all the way down south. That was not that expensive. Sri Lanka is an amazing country in terms of that. And the first 4 days were kind of tough because it was going to be New Year's Eve. I just arrived in a foreign country that I didn't know anything about, and I didn't have any friends, and I didn't really meet people because as like natural for me is that I'm quite introverted. So just jumping out of my comfort zone and running straight at people and saying, hello, can we be friends? Something like that. I don't know, that's not how it works anyway, but I wasn't really good at striking up a conversation and kind of just making friends randomly, I guess. But then I moved to a different city right after New Year's. Most boring New Year's ever, by the way. There was almost no fireworks, and I spent it alone. Moved down to another city where there were a lot more digital nomads, and this changed everything. I met a lot of cool new people, software developers, an author, project managers, people who just tried to do things a little bit differently. It was also still the end of COVID, so companies were still okay with people working remotely, and it was kind of getting more normal. And if you did it from Sri Lanka, as long as you worked the same hours, I guess it didn't really make that big of a difference because everyone was working from home anyway. But I met a lot of cool people there, and I started building my own business. I started having all these ideas about affiliate marketing, selling prints, doing product photography, doing all these things. So I built a website, I made a podcast, I had a blog. Like, as you can probably hear, I had too many things going on. But that was also kind of what I wanted to do in the beginning, because I wanted to test out as many things as possible to see what I liked, to see what I truly wanted to do, rather than just jump straight at one thing and then realizing later that that wasn't for me. I had some savings with me, about I think 15,000 euros. I can convert that on the screen somewhere. But yeah, that was kind of like what I was running off now, and I was trying to figure out how to build a business. And I knew some things from being a consultant, and I thought, okay, I know sales, I know some marketing, I know project management, I know stakeholder management, all these kind of fancy words. But I knew all of that within the IT space and not the marketing space, is what I then came to kind of realize. But my two goals, like 1 and 3, of making a lot of friends, and the third goal of getting new perspectives, was definitely fulfilled quite quickly. Not that it's just something of a checkbox, it's of course a long-term thing. But I kind of got to that point where I was a lot better at meeting people. We had a huge group here in Sri Lanka, and it was amazing. But I still had that intention of going to Bali, and of course my visa for Sri Lanka wasn't forever. So the plan was to still go to Bali, and that was kind of my big dream as well. I think we're gonna switch location again. Now I just found this park, so I think I'm just gonna find a different space in this park, and then we'll talk more. All right, quick interruption. As I mentioned in the beginning, this video wouldn't have been possible without Artlist. And I could have made it, but it wouldn't have been the same without being able to throw in some music and some background sound effects or sounds, and kind of trying to pull this video together a little bit more than just me sitting somewhere and telling a story. And it also kind of made me want to go out and shoot it more. Now, they didn't sponsor the video, as I said in the beginning, so they haven't paid me anything, but they did help me out, and I've been an affiliate with them for a long time. I've used their platform for a long time, and it's kind of my turn to give back to them a little bit. So you can get 2 months free if you sign up with the link down below. And Artlist is an amazing platform. They have great music, they have amazing sound effects. And if you get the Artlist Max subscription, you have footage as well. And one of the coolest things is that they have this AI search feature where you can literally search anything, mood, style, whatever you want, whatever you're looking for. And you can get help finding something that fits the mood and the scene and the vibe and what you're going for in your video. You can do that with other services as well, but what I find here is that it just makes it so much easier that you can kind of talk to this AI or type out what you're looking for and then get help finding those exact things. It makes it massively easier for me to do this and to make something that kind of goes with the vibe and the story that I'm trying to convey. And there's going to be a lot more in the future of this. This is kind of like my test of figuring out how to do this stuff. And with the help of Artlist, I'm making it possible. I'm just going out there shooting something, and I told them that I was going to do this and if they wanted to help me out, and they said yes. I think that kind of shows what an incredible company Artlist is as well, that they actually care about creators and they want to help creators. And they're not just in the business to only make money, they're also here to help and to actually make things happen. I know that they're running their 100K fund. Just the fact that they are willing to give $100,000 to fulfill a dream project for someone is absolutely insane and incredible. Of course, it requires a lot to pitch down something or pitch in something that really sells that story, but just the fact that it's even a possibility, it just kind of blows my mind. So thank you, Artlist, for helping me out with this. I am truly, truly appreciative and happy that I get this opportunity. Back to the video. All right, I think I found another spot here. I kind of had this idea that I want to sit against the tree. I hope there's not any like killer ants or something like this here. I hope the exposure is still good. Still need to check my notes. All right, so we are about like 1.5 months into being in Sri Lanka, into 2022 now. And things were not really working out for me the way I hoped they would in terms of creating a business and doing everything. And as I just said, I had too many eggs in my basket. I was doing too many things, but that was kind of also my intention to do that in the beginning. But I did have like this naive thinking that it would be faster or easier to do it than it actually turned out to be. So I was kind of losing motivation a little bit. I was kind of struggling to figure out, okay, how am I gonna do photography while I'm traveling? I did get a really cool collaboration with a hotel in my last part of staying in Sri Lanka, where I took some photos and I made some video way before I knew anything about video. I just thought video couldn't be that much more difficult when I knew photography. Fooled, but I decided to, well, it was always my plan to leave Sri Lanka, and then I flew to Bali. And when I got to Bali, something weird happened. I found myself extremely exhausted, and I didn't have any motivation to do anything anymore. I wanted to kind of create a course. I did one video on YouTube while I was in Sri Lanka. That was my first video on a tutorial on Lightroom, I think. Thinking that I would try and start doing that, but I just felt I had no energy left. I didn't want to meet people. I didn't want to work. I spent too much time on my phone. And I started reflecting upon why that was. And I realized that had I been still in Denmark, which is a really small country if you don't know, and I had moved from Copenhagen, where I lived, to the other part of Denmark, and then 1.5 months later moved down south, making some friends in the first city and then moving down and then having to start over once again. I think I would have been pretty damn exhausted from doing that in itself. And that's like, you can drive through Denmark in 4 or 5 hours. So it's not that far apart, but I was thinking about that as like, that's a huge step to do. But now I had just moved from Denmark to Sri Lanka, where I didn't know anything, new culture, knew everything. And then moved to Bali, where it was also new everything, and I didn't know anyone there. And it was still the end of the pandemic, so there were people around, but it was not like, if you go to Bali now, there's 1 million tourists. So it'd probably be easier to find people now. Not that that was kind of the issue. The issue was just that I was burned out from doing all this. I didn't really take the time to reflect and take everything in until I arrived in Bali, and I was just completely exhausted. Now, it wasn't too long after that I fell on my scooter in Bali. Be careful if you go there. It's not dangerous to drive necessarily, but just be careful. It was road conditions for me, so it wasn't because I was just speeding or anything, just to get that out of the way. But I fell on my scooter, and that was another low point that I had to be in bed for like 3 weeks. I couldn't shower, and it was that bad. I'm not going to go into details, but it was pretty bad. After that, in between that, I actually started meeting a lot of cool people, and I kind of got the motivation back from that. I got some motivation from them, and it was super cool, but I still was struggling business-wise, and now my money was starting to run out. which didn't really help anything either. It was just making it a lot more difficult to actually try and make this sustainable and try to make things work and happen the way that I had thought they could and thought they would. And I also started losing hope towards doing this with photography. And I kind of got lost in not knowing what to do. So yeah, let's move to the last location. I think I'm just gonna find a third spot in this park, get a little bit closer to the camera. And yeah, I'm just gonna wrap this video up, do a little recap and tell where we end off with this section before we head on to the next one. I kind of want to go up on this thing and sit here, but I don't know if it can carry me or if I can even get up there and get down again. That could also be an issue. I'm gonna try from the other side. Why am I getting these stupid ideas? I know you can't see me right now, but I'm just gonna try and climb on top of this thing. Quick fun fact, I'm super afraid of heights, so this is like a meter from ground, so this is fine. But okay. This is not a flattering angle at all. I don't know what I was expecting with this angle. Fuck it, we'll just make it work. To recap everything, I left in the end of December 2021. Plan was to go to Bali, already hit a bump on the road there. Went to Sri Lanka instead, where it was rough in the beginning, didn't really meet many friends. Then it turned completely around. I met a lot of cool people, spent a lot of time with them. A little bit less time working, I don't think I mentioned that before. And I didn't really succeed in trying to make photography my business, or like a creative business is what I wanted to do, but it just turned out to be a lot harder than I actually expected it to be. And then when I went to Bali, I kind of realized that I had been moving between 3 countries that I'd never done before. I'd never left home for this long before either. The maximum was like 3 weeks of vacation. And I realized that it was a lot harder than I thought it was. And it took a lot of adjustment and a lot of I think if I'd just been traveling, it would have been different. But I was trying to make a business. I was trying to make a new lifestyle as well, make a new life for myself. And it's a lot more difficult than I thought it would be. I met a lot of cool people in Bali, people that I still have as dear friends today, and Bali became a second home for me. I love it there, although I am good with exploring other things amongst Australia as I'm in now. But I also realized that I can't keep going with photography. Not that you can't make a business out of photography. If that's your goal, then I'm sure it's possible. I feel like it's easier if you're based in one place and you can kind of build a business around local businesses in the same country or in the same area. Whereas if you're trying to do it like I did, it's just, yeah, I don't know. It was more difficult, and you can do a travel photography, but how do you make money with that? That was kind of my struggle. So I was hitting a big downfall, and I kind of don't want to leave it on that, but I was losing hope in photography, in my business, in all the things that I was doing, and most importantly, I was running out of money. I didn't try to save like crazy. I just wanted to live a good life. I didn't stay in expensive hotels, but I wanted to live like a decent life at the same time as I was doing this. I didn't want to punish myself to get through it, so I could have run longer on the money that I had for sure, but that was not the way that I wanted to go about it. So I didn't, and I don't regret anything, but I was running out of money, which meant that I didn't really have a means to continue. So I had to go back to Denmark, which was frustrating. But I also, before I left Bali, like a few weeks before I left, I had a good talk with Zach Watson, if you know him from Instagram or YouTube or other places, who I met through some friends, and it was kind of just like a coffee, but he inspired me to start creating a reel every single day. And my goal with that was that I wanted to get better at videography and figure out what I was missing, because I had already started getting into videography and I shot a lot with a friend. I went on a few trips, started shooting a lot of videos, but they didn't really look nice. They didn't really look like I wanted them to. And back then, I think now I had maybe somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 followers on Instagram. I can't remember exactly. Either it was 1,200 or 1,800, I don't know. It was not that much. And I didn't really have a following base on YouTube either, nothing like that. And not that you need a following base to do anything, but it was kind of like I want to do something different. I want to get into video. I want to figure out how I can make these videos look great and not just bad as they did. And I think I want to talk a lot more about what happened then in the next chapter. So if you want to hear more, see more, then leave a comment below. And this was my first attempt at making this kind of video, so I hope it went okay, and I hope it's not too boring to watch, and otherwise that's also part of it. But spoiler alert, I got into color grading and things sort of turned around. I mean, it's been a year now since where this story ends. And I'm in a lot better place now, but it's been a journey. It's been a journey for sure. I'm excited to share the next chapters. Yeah, I'm gonna end it here. See if I can get down from this stupid tree. Whoa. A huge lawn mover just obliterating the background. I don't know if you can hear this or me at all. I'm gonna try and speak a little bit louder and then hopefully it's good. Okay. The camera is absolutely fried after doing this. I'm shooting on the Canon R6 and it's just exposure. And it's just, I can record for 5 more minutes, I think, and it's super, super hot. It is hot today, but still. I don't want to say this, but I kind of want to switch to Sony if I could afford it. So Sony, if you hear this, FX3, please. Ended up walking a kilometer away from the house and I did not bring my AirPods. Now I'm just gonna have to walk back in this heat. So not the best idea of doing it now. But hey, we got it done.